All right, so it's like it's Sunday morning. Everyone here is really tired. Some of you are probably hungover. Maybe a couple of you are still like drunk from last night. Anyone? A little bit? Okay. I like to think like this is like we're tired. We've been partying. I like to think this is the state of mind everyone who built a weapon or plan for this talk was in. Like they partied. They're like, oh shit, we have to win a war now. Okay, so. So for those of you, for whoever here is like not familiar with Metal Gear, which was like a couple people, Metal Gear is a video game series by this guy in the center, who has some interesting, let's say interesting gameplay ideas, like the stealthy cardboard box, or the like machine gun that never runs out of ammo because, and I quote, the magazine feed is shaped like an infinity symbol. This is the actual in-game explanation for why the Patriot does not run out of ammo. And like, if you want an idea of like, you know, like this kind of reasoning like, okay, I need to rescue the president. I'm gonna pull out a rocket launcher, fire a rocket through the ventilation shaft, like steer it around the corner, fly it past the head of the president, blow up an electronic control panel, and that will unlock the door so I can rescue the president. If you think this is a good plan, congratulations, you are exactly as insane as Hideo Kojima. Okay, so like, what's this about? Like, this is about like, in real life, like an actual military agency or like an actual military or an actual intelligence agency. It's just like, and then like, I'm not talking about like some guy who thought it'd be hilarious to mount a chainsaw to his AR-15 so it could be like Gears of War. I'm talking about a R&D department who put real money and time, and in some cases, legitimate geniuses on projects that I would call Hideo Kojima approved. Obviously, this is not like he didn't approve this talk. This is just like things I think he would like. So, and then also I'm gonna give like a little historical background so you can like feel like the desperation of like, oh, we really needed to build this project to help win the war. So in June, like from late 1939 to like pretty much 45, there was the Battle of the North Atlantic, which would be the worst video game ever because it mostly involved like crappy, shitty convoy ships getting sunk by, getting sunk. Like, imagine this game, like sail for 18 hours on the ocean and then die because you got hit by a torpedo. I also think this is like the most important battle of World War II in Europe. And this is because like, I don't care how much like cool shit you have or how awesome your soldiers are. You can't win a war without a shit ton of supplies. During the invasion of North Africa, Eisenhower had like 15 tons of supply per man for that campaign. For reference, this is a pallet with half a ton of supplies. So that you can say, like, oh, what about airlift? Like, no, like airlift's important. Airlift is not enough. The only way to get a military in another place is like naval power. You have to use sea lift. And for the first couple of years of World War II, this was going really badly because the Germans had submarines and they were sinking all of our shit. This is a chart of like how effective submarines are as a weapon. So like there's like sunk by everything else in wartime and sunk by submarines. And you can see like in 42, like submarines in the Atlantic sank more tonnage than every other form of like combat combined. You see like even more extreme results in the Pacific theater, like that leftmost bar graph that's like way higher than everything else. That was like Japanese tonnage lost by submarine. And then everything else on the right is like carriers, land-based aircraft, mines, surface craft, and like other like random ways of sinking submarines. Like basically, submarine warfare was really important. And also submarines in World War II fucking sucked. Like we say submarine, but until 1944, when someone had this idea of like sticking a pipe to above the surface of the water, submarines could be submerged for like 4 to 8 hours. Then you'd have to surface just so you could run your diesel engines. Like if you burn diesel underwater, then like you use up all your oxygen and you die. So this makes air power the most effective way to combat submarine warfare. The problem is like if you have aircraft carriers, you really want to use your aircraft carriers for actual naval battles and not like keep your good aircraft carriers protecting your ships. So one solution is to build escort carriers, and escort carriers are like, okay, escort carriers are shitty carriers. Like this is clearly retrofitted, like this was a different ship, and they like slapped a deck on top that like, oh, you're an aircraft carrier, go. The problem with this, like the escort carrier approach is that like, oh, all your ships are being sunk, all this steel is going to the bottom of the ocean, You need steel for everything. And like we can't afford, especially early in the war, like we just can't afford like to be spitting out all these, escort carriers. We really need, we need a way to get a lot of air power over ships now to defend them from submarines. And all this steel is going to the bottom of the ocean. So, steel sinks. What doesn't sink? Ice. Clearly, this is not an actual picture. This is like an artist's rendition. There's a English inventor, Geoffrey Pike, who's like, okay, what if we built an aircraft carrier out of ice? And it won't sink, but we can still like protect our ships. This so actually it's not ice. Like if you take a gun and shoot a block of ice, that block of ice will shatter. If you mix like 80% water, like 84, 86% water, and some wood pulp, and you shoot that, like the bolt will actually ricochet right off. This is called pikerite. And like, pikerite's actually really cool stuff. Like here's an example of the dome that was built in Finland. Like this is all made out of pikerite. And like it's actually a really cool material. Oh, sweet. Thank you, tech people. How's it going? Oh, God damn it. All right, move that on my tiny screen. Oh, shit. No, we've lost both screens, no. This was a horrible, okay, we're back. There is only one problem with the ice ship plan. Ice melts. Now, to be fair, like this guy's not a complete idiot. It's like, okay, I know ice melts, but we can put refrigeration plants on the ship and like we'll be like constantly repairing our awesome ice carrier. Here's a problem with that is like to build refrigeration plants, you need steel. And they they built a prototype which took quite a while. It cost a lot of money. And then like by the time they built this prototype, they realized that the amount of steel you would need to build the refrigeration plants was more than the amount of steel you would need to just build an escort carrier. So needless to say, like there are no ice aircraft carriers. Okay, so let's talk. Okay, so different topics. So like, let's talk about dogs in warfare. Like I'm not sure if anyone played Metal Gear Solid 5. Okay, but like when I saw this game, I'm like, okay, D-Dog is cute. Like this is cool as a game like mechanic. There's no way real war dogs are this cute, and I was so wrong. Like war dogs are freaking adorable. Like this is just like a German Shepherd hanging out on a Bradley in Iraq. And then like dogs have been used in warfare since ancient times. Like Romans had them; they used them as attack dogs. You can use dogs as sentries, trackers, and then of course modern day you have bomb dogs. Someone with a very poor sense of humor would say like, "Oh, it's not a bomb dog; it's a bomb detection." Well, actually, it's a bomb detection dog. And they're like, "Oh, ha ha ha." Well, in Soviet Russia in 1941, no one had a sense of humor. They got like. So we're like, bomb dog, there's a lot of German tanks, we got dogs. Let's strap some explosives to these dogs and train them to run under the tanks and then blow up the tanks. This is a horrible idea. First of all, the Germans responded by just shooting all the dogs that they saw. This is also a horrible idea because the Russians trained these dogs on the tanks they had available, which were generally Russian tanks. So in the heat of battle, the dogs were like, what was that thing I'm supposed to run under? There it is. Ran right back towards their like own T-34 tanks. And like on the rare occasion this worked, like they'd blow up their own tanks. So like this all happened, but this is also like just like a really long setup to the phrase like, okay, in Soviet Russia, dog bombs you. The allies, like the other allies, like other than Russia, treated their dogs a lot better. Like the U.S. and Canada and Britain, like we're like, okay, we love our dogs and we want to like parachute into battle with them. This is like how you get dogs into like, if you're a paratrooper, this is how you get your like support dogs with you. You strap little parachutes on them. This is a training video, not combat video, and then like you throw them out of the airplane. And like this, you think this would be terrifying, but like if you look at this dog, he's wagging his tail, like he's having a great time. They hit the ground a little hard, but like he's okay. Like he's all right. He got up. And, like this guy's waving his tail, like thump. But he's up. Like it's good. In World War II, this is like how you got your dogs into combat. Now, this is like the more adorable approach, but like modern day, you just like tandem jump with them. Yeah. So dogs. What about cats? Okay. Thank God no one ever tried to, like no one like seriously tried to strap a bomb to a cat. There was a project in the Cold War. It's like, okay, we need to spy on the Russians. What will they not suspect? A cat. So there's like during the 1960s, there was a project called Project Acoustic Kitty, where they spent over $10 million devising this like tiny radio and tiny like microphone. They performed an operation and surgically implanted this into a cat. Then they released the cat, who managed to make it about 5 feet before getting hit by a taxi. The CIA shortly canceled this project, or at least that's what they tell us. Okay, Project Pigeon. So like homing pigeons have been used, this has also been used since ancient times. They used to announce the winners of the Olympics with like, you send a carrier pigeon, and like certain species of pigeons have like a very good sense of direction. They can always fly home, or you can like train them to fly back and forth. For a little while, there's something called like pigeon post. And then like this is actually really important in World War, especially World War I and to a lesser extent World War II, because like if radio comms weren't working, like you'd like, oh crap, like radios are down, send a pigeon to like the nearest place that has a radio, and then like they'll tell us what they need. Pigeons were actually decorated. Like some of them, like there's one pigeon that flew for like 6 hours to deliver this message to save like a bunch of shipwrecked sailors. There's something called the Dickens Medal, which is awarded to like all sorts of animals, but often pigeons, for conspicuous gallantry in the face of enemy action. This is not what I'm going to talk about. This is a perfectly sane use of pigeons. So high altitude bombing, like there's a problem with high altitude bombing in that in World War II it's really inaccurate. And like you could like try to use these Norden bomb sites under ideal conditions. You could get a circular error probable of about 23 meters, but like it's warfare. Conditions are never ideal. Your actual circular error probable, that's like the circle that 50% of your bombs land in, was about 370 meters. Anyway, in the 1930s, B.F. Skinner learned that you can like train all sorts of animals by like rewarding them. So he's like, okay, we need to bomb shit. What if we trained a pigeon to peck at a target, get a glider, fill it with explosives, and then put a pigeon in the nose cone? If this sounds really dumb, everyone thought this sounded dumb. They canceled this project in 1944. And then they brought it back in 1948, where it was funded from 48 to 53. Like, it's called Project Orcon. Is it so? Oh, okay. Okay, we're going back to everyone. Oh, wait, what? Is it up? I just plugged in. Okay, so this project was run from 1948 to 1953. It's called what? Damn it. Question?
Yeah, so they filled a glider with bombs.
Yes.
And then the pigeon pecked at the nose?
So there's a glass opening, and like it's trained to peck at the target, and they put like a control system in, so like when a certain part of, like when the pigeon was trying to like push it, it'd try to glide towards the target. I don't know how successful this was. They cut funding for it during the war, so I can't imagine it was that good.
Netflix actually has the Light Rapid project where they tried to do it and they actually succeeded.
Well, like I said, like the Navy funded research on this for the Navy funded research on this for years until finally someone realized, like, okay, electronics are better now. We're just going to use like electronically guided missiles instead of putting pigeons in our bombs. We fucking weaponized everything. The idea behind bat bombs was like, okay, we're going to put like these incendiary bombs on bats, and then they'll like release a whole bunch of them from a B-29. They'll fly around and chew through the wires, and then incendiary explosives will go off. This project lasted until like one day a bunch of bats escaped and set fire to a hangar and a general's car. Quick question. World War II was a crazy time, man. Okay, very quick question.
Can't help but feel like both of these were fun because someone said, you know, the enemy won't expect this. Let's just release all of their bats on them and then they explode.
Okay, so skip bombing. Here's the idea. So there's a saying like you don't sink ships by making air holes. You sink ships by making water holes. So like the standard way to sink a ship was like, okay, we have a torpedo. We'll drop this from an airplane. It'll run underwater. It'll hit the ship. It'll blow up the ship. Due to quality control problems, for like the first couple of years of World War II, only about 30% of U.S. torpedoes actually exploded. The Japanese had these awesome torpedoes that sank ships, where ours just made this incredible like clink sound, where you'd fly away looking kind of ashamed, I guess. Also, the other problem with torpedoes is that torpedoes do not work on land. So like if you have land-based aircraft, you could keep some torpedoes around just in case, but bombs are like a general purpose bomb. Like blowing shit up is kind of the military's job description. So someone had this idea of like, okay, if you throw a stone really hard at the right angle, it will skip across the water. What if like we fly in low and skip a bomb across the water? Sorry? Yeah. So here's a training video, like, yeah, you drop a bomb and it skips across the water. Here's a better shot. Yes. This worked really well. So for example, there's something called the Battle of the Bismarck Sea, where the Japanese tried to reinforce New Guinea. They sent a convoy. There's like 8 destroyers, 8 troop transports, something like on the order of like 4,000 to 8,000 men is like not quite a division. And then they also gave a bunch of air cover. If you check the casualties, the US Air Force successfully sank all 8 transports, 4 of the destroyers, killed like about almost 3,000 Japanese soldiers, and lost 13 of their own guys. Like skip bombing was awesome. It's like oh yeah, we're gonna skip bombs across the surface of the water, and it worked. We don't do this anymore because like now we have missiles, but yeah, this was actually a good idea for the time. Let's see. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce this. I think it's Panjandrum. So the British, I want to read this right. The British Department of Miscellaneous Weapons Development was like, okay, that skip bombing works, but what if you're on a beach and you need to take out some enemy emplacements? Why don't we roll explosives up the beach? So if you see these like, I can't laser point to them, but if there's those little tubes throughout the wheel, we're like, okay, we're gonna put cordite rockets. Rockets will fire. It'll just like spin this huge wheel of explosives right up to the enemy, then it'll blow up. I think I have a video of this. Let's see if this plays. I like the idea, and like, here's the explosives, rockets going off, starting to spin. It starts off kind of slow because like they wanted to pack this thing full of explosives. The main problem they found when they tested this is that it's pretty hard to control a wheel with rockets on it. So it starts out by going to the enemy, then like kind of veers off to the side. Not in this test. In a different test, like the rockets also came loose, but then it just kind of like, it goes down. It's amazing no one was killed when they tried this thing. The Ghost Army. So in the Normandy invasion, on the first day, 130,000 troops were landed. By 1 month later, over 1 million British, Canadian, and U.S. troops were landed on the Normandy beaches, where you can see all these lines coming in. The obvious place to invade would be Calais. That's like at the narrowest part of the channel. And even after the initial invasion, Hitler refused to move release panzer divisions to hit Normandy because he was convinced from his intel that the Allies were going to invade in Calais. So, like I said, actually landed in the first day, 130,000 guys. They're convinced because there was a fake army. Their official name was the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. Their nickname was the Ghost Army. This was their insignia. But this was 1,100 guys, combination of artists, architects, set designers, actors, and a couple engineers who were brought into war to create fake army stuff. Stuff like fake tanks, that's like an inflatable tank, fake guns, fake radio traffic, fake trucks. Like, the idea was that they were deployed on over 20 operations, and like this group of like about 1,000 guys, like mostly like, you know, like theater people, could create something that looked like about on the order of about 30,000 like fake guys worth of units in a few hours. This worked really well, and like actually some details of this are still classified because apparently like they might bring it back in the future. Okay, we're going to move out of World War. Oh, good, I'm timing this right. So we're going to move out of World War. We're going to move out of World War II into the Cold War, where people did stupid shit with nuclear bombs. So this is like what's better than a nuclear bomb? A nuclear bomb you put in an artillery shell and then fire at the enemy like a gun. We only deployed this once, but like the idea is like, yeah, you load this was the M65 Atomic Annie, was the name. It had a range of about 20 miles, and it fired a nuclear bomb. Yeah, pretty much actually. Now like 20 miles is a little close for comfort, but like that's a relatively safe range for a nuke as long as you're not looking right at it. So of course, after seeing this, like they canceled this project later, but like after seeing this, like the first thing you think of is like, oh man, I want this, but man portable. So the Davy Crockett was a 10 to 20, like the equivalent amount of explosives, like 10 to 20 tons of TNT. The original version had a range of 1.25 miles. It also had no abort function. Once you fired it, like it was going off. To be fair, the second version had the much improved range of 2.5 miles. Yes, like it's ridiculous, and like no one would ever deploy this. And by no one would ever deploy this, I mean they made over 2,000 of them and had them deployed from 1956 to 1971 before someone finally decommissioned the project. Also, they made an air-to-air I'll take a question later. They made an air-to-air version in case you wanted to shoot down, I don't know, a whole fucking squadron. I don't know why you want to detonate a nuke in the air like that. Of course, we carefully protected nukes during the Cold War. We had, like, in the US, we had these things, it's called PAL, or permissive action links. You could not arm the nuclear bombs unless you had the codes. And of course, this code was a highly secret number. So, like, what happened was, like, the secretary, like, the politicians were like, okay, put a secret code on this. And then the Air Force was like, okay, we'll install your secret code system, but if we really need to fire the nukes, we better make the code something really easy to dial in. The British had a much better system, of course. The British just worked on British honor. They didn't actually have permissive action links. They had like a little bicycle lock to open the side of their nukes. Then you flip the switch to arm it, and you used an Allen wrench to set yield. The chief scientific advisor suggested that we need a form of ironclad control so that no one can arm the nukes. The Royal Navy said that it would be invidious to suggest that senior service officers may, in difficult circumstances, act in defiance of their clear orders. So we theoretically had a code system. The British had honor. They had fewer nuclear accidents than we did, so maybe they were doing something right. Space race. So in October 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first artificial satellite into orbit. This was called Sputnik. And this panicked us, because like, America, oh shit, they got there first. We rushed the Vanguard rocket to the launch pad so we could also put a satellite into orbit. In December 1957, it blew up on the launch pad on live television, much to the embarrassment of the nation. The very next year, the Air Force funded Project A119, what was officially called a study of lunar research flights. I don't know if anyone here knows who Carl Sagan is. Okay, Carl Sagan was actually on this team, like he's a junior researcher then. And the plan was like, okay, the Russians beat us to space. We need to show the world America's fucking awesome. Why don't we detonate a nuke on the moon? Specifically, detonate a nuke on the terminus, like where it gets kind of dark. So if we detonate a nuke on the moon, it should be bright enough to be seen from Earth, and everyone will know how fucking awesome America is. Okay, so there's two problems with this. One is that this is like a blatant militarization of space that no one, kind of worried everyone. The second problem is there was concern that if you missed and aimed too high, it'd orbit the moon and come back. So, we decided not to do this. About a decade later, we just sent astronauts. So if you think about this, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong were considered a valid substitute for a nuclear weapon. Also, if this whole thing sounds like a giant pissing contest, penis envy, it absolutely was, and everyone involved is we were trying to show off how this was a pissing contest. Speaking of which, on the Apollo, this is just a side note, but on the Apollo flights, being an astronaut's not always glamorous. You have to take a leak. There's no gravity, so they had this Apollo bag system, and then so nothing gets too nasty. You put condoms over a receptacle, which NASA labeled small, medium, and large. Collins described how the astronauts very quickly relabeled these to extra large, immense, and unbelievable. Hey, did anyone make it to the space combat panel? Okay, so no one else knows this. Try this now. All right. If this doesn't work, I'm just gonna do the rest of this talk on the small screen. And okay, we're done. Thanks for trying, guys. Okay, so here's the general problem with space flight. Is if you want to go fast, you need to bring rocket fuel. But now the rocket fuel is extra weight you got to carry, so you need to carry even more fucking rocket fuel. This gets out of control really quickly. Is this screen back up? Okay. So I blatantly ripped this off from XKCD, but the idea is to get a probe to Saturn, that's on the left. Then to get back again, that's how much fuel you need, because as you add more fuel, you add more weight. This is called the tyranny of rocket equation, and it's physics. It's a problem, because you need mass, you need reaction mass to propel your rocket. Well, I don't know if anyone I was talking about nukes earlier. Actually, nukes convert mass into energy. So there's a thing called Project Orion, where it's okay, a rocket ship's informally, a rocket ship's a huge explosion that propels you forward. Nukes are a even bigger explosion. So you build this shock absorber, and then you have it's not a nuclear bomb so much as a nuclear shaped charge aimed at the plate to propel you forward. I don't know if anyone knows who Freeman Dyson is. Dyson sphere? Oh yeah, so Freeman Dyson actually did a bunch of research. There's real people studying this. Remarkably, and I quote, "Danger to human life was not the primary reason for abandoning the project. This actually works as a concept, and you can design this so the astronauts would survive. The main problems with this are, the part where you really need all this mass is getting into orbit, and you don't really want to be detonating all these nukes in the Earth's atmosphere. So there's nuclear fallout. Also, there's EMP problems that could wipe out all your electronics. That's the reason the project was canceled. This is still considered, you can correct me if I'm wrong, this is still considered a relatively promising avenue for deep space travel. Yeah. Very quick.
I believe the idea that they are still considering that, well, you're right, detonating the atmosphere is a bad idea, but what if it's a platform in orbit?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, jarring topic switch. I'm talking about military stuff. How do you recruit people in your military? Well, you can, you warm films, you have propaganda, most of it's along the lines of you can be fucking awesome. This was a Japanese recruitment poster just before World War II. It's yes, you are a samurai, you will kill your enemies. It's amazing. Japan experienced, I'd say, quite a dramatic cultural shift from World War II to modern day. For one thing, it's less, samurai, more anime girls. Well, in 2014, the military's people, like kids these days, they love anime, right? So this is a 2014 Japanese Defense Force recruitment poster. There was a whole series of these. So the quote was, this led to, okay, this was like the group of people who did the program, but they claimed it led to skyrocketing new enrollments and like posters and calendars flew off the shelves. Like, apparently this was like a relatively successful ad campaign. I fucking love Japan. Oh, sure. Yeah. So like if this whole thing is like designed, like, okay, it's like, okay, at this point, like, are we gonna get like an entire army unit of like autistic nerds? Israel took a look at that concept and they're like, yes, autistic people, they like, you know, everyone hates looking at satellite imagery all day. There's actually a unit called, it's unit 9900. Like the idea was like, okay, high functioning autistic people, let's invite them to the military, train them what to look for on like, you know, satellite and aircraft imagery. And it turns out that like certain people like are really good at that. So yeah, that's, you can joke about like, oh yeah, like weaponized autism, except yes. I don't have a clever title for this part. This is just like vehicles that militaries have built and deployed that are dumb. This was called the, this was the HZ-1 Aerocycle in 1954. It was designed to be flown with 20 minutes of instruction. This is clearly dangerous. So they built a couple prototypes, then like they kind of like, they canceled the project. Oh wait, no, they built one in 1955 as well. And they're like, well, it's probably the old one is like, if you're flying this thing, you can't shoot your gun at the same time. So what if we made it so you control it by leaning? This aircraft was controlled, like if you want to fly in a certain direction, you lean in that direction. So that way you can hold your rifle at the same time. Also, this is like ridiculously dangerous and they've shortly canceled this project. Like, there's no room for a parachute or anything on this. Like, if you crash, you're dead. Then in like the 1980s, we got good at jet aircraft, so like, we had to build a jet version of this. This was called the Williams X-Jet. It's a platform and a jet engine. They called it the flying pulpit. Also, this project got canceled because like, this is just a poor concept, but we had to do it 3 times. This actually might look reasonable till you look closely at the wings. This is the Goodyear inflatoplane. Those wings are made of rubber. You inflate them. The concept's kind of cool. Like it is like, okay, pilots are really expensive, and like they're down behind enemy lines. The concept was like, wait, we can box this shit up, airdrop it, the pilot can assemble it, and then fly themselves out. It had top speed of 70 miles per hour. I can drive faster than that. And the military canceled it because, and I quote, no valid military use for an aircraft that can be brought down by a well-aimed bow and arrow. So, okay, that's kind of what I got for aircraft. Let's take a look at some dumb tanks. Very quick.
How long did it take to inflate?
Like, actually, you could inflate it in like less than an hour. Okay. Hand pump. Yeah.
An hour of hand pump.
Less than an hour, I don't remember the exact number. This was the Russian Tsar tank in 1914. Huge front wheels. The rear wheel was 5 feet high, got stuck a lot. So like once you get stuck, you're pretty vulnerable to artillery fire. This is the drill tank, which I think is really cool. Like it's designed to move across like tundra or swamp. Had a blistering speed of 1.6 miles per hour. This was an air-droppable anti-tank weapon, which is kind of cool. It's the Vespa 150 TAP. It's also a fucking Vespa. It's an anti-tank gun. Like it was designed to like take on a like a main battle tank. Like it's hard to, it's like anti-tank weaponry is heavy. So like the idea is like you can airdrop this and drive around, but on really well-paved roads only. Very quick. Sorry? I mean, like, it kind of worked, but, like, you could, like, theoretically fire this gun, but not well. No, it was, like, his recoilless rifle, like, the exhaust vents out the back. Very quick.
Like he was going to say, but I thought that thing would go down instead of the rocket going anywhere, it'd be the Vespa going.
It was a recoilless rifle, yeah. Yeah. Guns. Okay. I'm running a little fast. So like, okay, like, as much as I love the concept, like every anime, most video games, like people love attaching shit to their guns. As far as I can tell, like historically, there's only one value of attaching a melee weapon to a gun. In the early days of guns, you had like your musket men, and then since it took like 15 seconds if you're really good and 30 seconds like or longer to reload, you'd protect your musket men with pikemen. And then like one day someone realized like, hey, if I put a pointy end on my rifle, now it's also a pike. This is kind of the only thing that really works because like as you add more weight to your rifle, it's harder and harder to aim. But like people have experimented with this. This is a gun shield. This was in the 1550s for his King Henry VII's bodyguards. Remember, these are muzzle-loaded weapons. Like you have to like turn the gun, pour powder in, and then like push your lead shot in. And it's a shield. So you could get a shot, but then you have to like put your shield down, pour powder in, and like reload. Also, it's really heavy, so like about the only way you could accurately fire is if you like rested the shield on something. Then like the U.S. Navy experimented with a similar concept. This is a cap and ball pistol. So like one shot, like, oh, after my shot, I also have a Bowie knife. But like, no, I love the concept of gun blades, but you don't get an awesome gun blade. What you get is a shitty pistol and a shitty knife. And then like, so like they tried this on but like the concept never works because like you need like, these are two completely different functions. Like the only concept that really works is this one. This doesn't stop you from doing other dumb stuff with your guns. So like World War I was dominated by trench warfare and like it sucks because you have to like stick your head up to shoot. So the Germans had this idea of like, well, what if you like bend the barrel a little bit? And then like now we can shoot over the trenches and they can't shoot at us. This works, but not well because like you lose all this velocity as like the bullets like curving along the barrel. But like you can fire a shot this way and it can go fast enough to kill someone, but it's like pretty short range. And it's a pretty poor concept overall. The modern version of this is the corner shot. And then like may note that it's a pistol. Because like the pistol goes in the front part, you have a little camera, and like you can kind of maneuver around corners. This is actually in use. It's the Israeli Defense Forces. It's also kind of expensive. It's just one of these things where it's really highly situational because it's like short range. And I'm going to shoot around corners, but like only corners. And if my enemy has like any kind of like rifle or armor-piercing ammo, they're just going to shoot that whole section, like go through probably my cover. So this works, but it's a very limited sort of thing. Quick question.
Is the nozzle constantly going around the corner, or is it like?
In the World War I version, yes. That's another reason it didn't work very well, because like, yeah, if like you wanted to shoot around a corner, you could only bend the barrel one way, and you can't really bend it back in combat. No, the newer versions, like you can actually, like you pull this little lever on the bottom, and like you adjust which way it's pointed. So it's kind of a cool concept. Pretty much. Then like this is a reasonable concept, and then someone else had to add to this, like, wait, what if like I don't want them to realize the barrel's there until I shoot them. I need to disguise the end of my corner shot. This is the corner shot kitty. It's not an actual cat, but like, yes. So this is in use. No one uses this. Like,
Psychological warfare.
all right, so I said that like gun attachments don't work. Okay, so like, okay, that's a lie. Like the gun attachments that work are like underbarrel shotguns, underbarrel grenade launchers, like melee weapons and tools, like bayonets work. Nothing else really works. Like people have made it as a joke chainsaws, but like that's a joke. Like no one actually uses that. There is one tool that you can put on a assault rifle that's awesome, because what happened was like the Israeli army discovered that the magazines for the Galil assault rifle are the perfect shape to open a bottle with. So soldiers like kept using their mags to like open like beer bottles. This ruins the mag, and then like it's more likely to jam in combat. So for a while they're trying to train everyone. Don't use your magazines to open bottles. I'm not plugging this in. We're almost done. So for a while they tried to train everyone like, don't use your magazines to open bottles. Finally they gave up and were like, fine, if you keep doing this, we're just going to put a bottle opener on the assault rifle. This is the assault rifle, and that's the bottle opener. Now, if that's not the manliest way to open a bottle, I don't know what is. I finished a little early. Okay, so first, that's all I got. Thank you all for coming on a Sunday morning. That was great.
I don't believe we said our names.
Oh, yeah, I'm Josh Brule.
I'm Donald Gregorich.
I hope everyone has a great MAGFest. Thanks all for coming. I'd say follow me on social media, except I'm not on social media, so have a good rest of the con, and I can stick around if anyone wants to ask questions for a few minutes.